Phase 3, the state starts to open up in the middle of all the meetings leading up to the governor's announcement yesterday. With all the meetings, all the discussions, was there anyone that had the governor's ear who was saying things like, you can't do it, people will die, it's too soon?
Yes, I was there, and these discussions are ongoing. The governor, we're actually having, all through the week, every week, we're talking about this. We're talking about the virus. We're talking about the vaccine distribution. We're looking at the numbers every day. So there's constant discussion, for over the last year. But as it relates to what we were going to announce yesterday, I think the discussion was we were going to, relieve the restrictions. So there was no discussion that why, to keep things as they were or to be more restrictive. The question was what was going to open up. So everyone was in agreement that we were going to go to phase 3. The question was how far were we going to open? So that there was no one that was in disagreement that we were going to go into phase 3.
Okay, what are some specifics? I know we can get down into the minutia about, live music can come back, festivals can come back. Let's start with festivals. To what extent can we hold festivals now, and what are some of the restrictions that people need to know about?
Well, first of all, working with the state fire marshal, and I think everyone will agree that they have been great throughout this and being very, I don't want to say flexible, but working with locals and the local fire marshal. And the way I understand it, and again, Butch Browning is available to work with local officials, is that, it's 50% capacity based on, the areas that are being utilized, that local festivals are back, open areas, social distancing, using masks. And I would just encourage local officials to work with the state fire marshal. And again, just crowd control, making sure they've got processes in place, and to share those plans with the local fire marshal. And we're going to be flexible in working with them. And the good thing is, with the weather that we're now going to start having, I think that, people are going to be surprised at what they can do. And again, the instructions that, the governor's, given the state fire marshal is to work with local officials to see what can be done, not to focus on what can't be done, as long as they're, again, social distancing, using masks when they're needed. But the weather, I think, is going to help us in this, with the local festivals.
Mr. Mark, when you're putting rules together, I know for live musical performances, I guess it's the audience has to be 20 feet from the stage, and you have to have an air conditioning system that recirculates or replaces all the air 6 times an hour. How do you come up with those rules? Why is it 20 instead of 15 or 25? Why is it 6 times an hour instead of 5 or 10 or whatever?
That's based on science, and they've looked at what the CDC has indicated and what studies have been done. Those physical barriers between the performers and the patrons, and it's to protect both. So they're looking at what science has indicated, what's been done in other states. And again, the state fire marshal's available to work with locales. I mean, I was at a local establishment last week, and I spoke to the owner, as I often get phone calls too, and I direct them to the state fire marshal. He's actually going on site and working with individual bar owners and restaurants and helping them with coming up with plans. But it's based on what science indicates, and he does research, as does the Department of Health, to help come up with those requirements. They just aren't pulled out from the sky. And then sometimes they'll adapt if we see there's other things out there that can help performers to make sure we can even be more liberal in those. But those requirements were based on what we were able to find and what science is out there. So we feel really good about that. And again, the goal is that we know that performers are hurting. They need to make income just like bar owners need to. So I think that what we've got out there is reasonable and will help, those performers, get back in business.
And the one rule that everybody wants to know about, I know you must hear about it every day, 11 p.m., no alcohol. You stuck with that. Why?
We did stick with it. I know, states around us, I know Texas is opening up to 100%, but that seems to be across the board with other states across the country, sticking with that 11 p.m. rule. Going later than that, people tend to bar hop, and that's what the governor has indicated. Hopefully, as the numbers continue to drop, we may be able to lift that rule in future orders, and hopefully we'll be able to get to 100% like other states at some point in time. We know we will have to as we will when numbers drop. But yeah, that's one of the things that we stuck with was the 11 p.m. rule.
I have a couple of real quickies. Casinos, can they expand their operations now?
We stuck with I think 50%. We stuck with that as it relates to casinos. 75% with gaming positions. Again, as the numbers continue to drop, we'll look at going up to higher occupancy rate for casinos. They've been very good as it relates to following the rules. In the next 28 days, hopefully we'll be able to increase that occupancy, but it's 50% occupancy for casinos.
Okay. No dancing. Can you explain that?
Well, it's obvious that, being that close together, the spread of germs, we're going to stick with that as well. But that's something that will hopefully be lifted as we see this virus get that under control and we get out of this pandemic.
Biden administration yesterday, everybody could be vaccinated, by the end of May, I guess May 31st, something like that. Can you imagine a scenario where we aren't back at 100%, say by the middle of June or the 1st of July?
Yeah, that's great news. I mean, there's two great announcements yesterday. It was the governor, us going to phase 3 and that announcement. We'll just have to see. I mean, that's very optimistic, and that was great news. We'll see what happens. I mean, pardon
me, Mark. Do you think it was optimistic or realistic? And am I splitting hairs?
Well, I'm going to say it's, we're going to have to see. I mean, we're going to believe what the president tells us, just like President Trump said that we would have a vaccine by the end of the year last year, and that happened. So we're going to believe that that's going to happen. And so we're going to believe that, and that's great news. And if that does occur, then we'll have some great news by the summer. And again, the governor is always from the very beginning following the science and following what we're hearing from both administrations. We've worked very well with President Trump and the President Trump's Corona Task Force. We're working well with the new administration, and so we're hopeful that what the president's telling us, and we're going to believe that's going to occur. And we're very optimistic.